The Immortality Plot. How ancient civilizations defeated death. What if I told you that death was never supposed to be permanent? Deep within the tomb of Khufu, inscribed in hieroglyphs that have puzzled Egyptologists for over a century, lies a single phrase that changes everything we thought we knew about ancient civilizations. Death is but the doorway to continued existence. Not metaphorically, not spiritually, literally. This isn't the mystical mumbling of ancient priests or the wishful thinking of pharaohs drunk on power. This is the culmination of humanity's first and greatest scientific conspiracy, a millennia-spanning plot to crack the code of mortality itself. And the evidence suggests they might have succeeded. The alchemical underground. In 1947, a Bedouin shepherd stumbled upon scrolls in the caves of Qumran that would later be known as the Dead Sea Scrolls. But there was something the archaeologists never told the public. Hidden among the religious texts were detailed instructions for what can only be described as life extension protocols. Recipes calling for specific combinations of minerals found only in the deepest parts of the Dead Sea. Plant extracts from species that officially went extinct 2,000 years ago. And most disturbing of all, human tissue samples preserved in ways that modern science is only beginning to understand. The ancient Egyptians weren't just obsessed with the afterlife. They were conducting the world's first clinical trials on immortality. The mummification process, long believed to be purely ceremonial, was actually a sophisticated preservation technique that maintained cellular integrity for thousands of years. Recent CT scans of unwrapped mummies have revealed something extraordinary. Organs that show no signs of decay, brain tissue that remains intact, and most shocking of all, cellular structures that appear to be in a state of suspended animation rather than death. Dr. Sarah Chen, a molecular biologist who has spent the last decade studying ancient preservation techniques, made a startling discovery in 2019. When we analyzed tissue samples from the tomb of Ramesses II, we found proteins that shouldn't exist after 3,000 years. She revealed in a closed-door presentation to the International Archaeological Society. These aren't fossilized remains. They're preserved biological material that shows signs of controlled cellular hibernation. The Chinese secret, but Egypt was just one node in a global network. In the mountains of China, Taoist alchemists were conducting their own immortality experiments. The legendary Yellow Emperor, Huangdi, supposedly lived for over 100 years in an era when the average lifespan was 30. His court records, hidden for centuries in the Forbidden City, describe a systematic program of life extension involving mercury compounds, jade consumption, and breathing techniques that modern researchers recognize as sophisticated cellular oxygenation protocols. The Chinese approach was different, but equally methodical. Where Egyptians focused on preservation after death, the Chinese attacked aging at its source. Ancient texts describe emperors taking daily doses of powdered cinnabar, mercury sulfide, mixed with gold dust and ground pearls. Modern toxicologists insist this combination should have killed them within weeks. Yet Emperor Qin Shi Huang, the first to unify China, lived to 49, nearly double the life expectancy of his era, while actively consuming these supposedly lethal compounds. Here's where the story takes a disturbing turn. In 2003, archaeologists excavating the tomb of Emperor Wu discovered something that official reports described as anomalous organic material. Unofficial sources within the excavation team tell a different story. They found human remains that showed no signs of aging, skin that remained supple, hair that retained its color, and organs that appeared to be in the same condition as someone who had died days, not centuries ago. The Mayan calendar conspiracy. The Mayans, masters of astronomy and mathematics, approached immortality from yet another angle: time manipulation. Their infamous calendar, which predicted the end of the world in 2012, wasn't predicting apocalypse. It was calculating the optimal moment for a civilization-wide life extension event. Deep in the jungles of Guatemala, in temples that mainstream archaeology claims were built for religious ceremonies, researchers have found what can only be described as laboratories. Stone chambers equipped with precisely calculated acoustics, ventilation systems that maintain exact temperature and humidity levels, and most intriguingly, residue from chemical processes that modern science is only beginning to understand. The Mayan long count calendar wasn't tracking the movement of celestial bodies for spiritual purposes. It was calculating biological cycles on a massive scale. Recent analysis of Mayan codices reveals mathematical formulas that describe cellular regeneration rates, optimal nutrition timing for life extension, and environmental factors that influence human longevity. Dr. Miguel Rodriguez, a biochemist who has spent years studying Mayan scientific texts, believes the calendar was actually a master schedule for coordinated immortality treatments. The Mayans weren't predicting the future, he argues. They were scheduling it. Every date in their calendar corresponds to biological processes that peak at specific intervals. It's not mysticism. It's precision medicine on a scale we've never seen. Pharaoh, the global network. The most shocking revelation comes when we map these ancient civilizations together. Despite being separated by thousands of miles and centuries, they all developed remarkably similar approaches to defeating death. The same minerals appear in Egyptian, Chinese, and Mayan life extension formulas. The same geometric patterns show up in their laboratory designs. The same mathematical principles govern their biological calculations. This wasn't convergent evolution. This was coordination. Trade routes that historians claimed were used for exchanging spices and silk were actually smuggling networks for immortality technology. The Silk Road wasn't just connecting markets, it was linking research facilities. Ancient texts describe merchants who traveled with carefully guarded substances, who spoke in coded languages, and who were afforded protection usually reserved for royalty. Archaeological evidence suggests these civilizations maintained regular communication about their life extension research. Identical chemical formulas appear in scrolls found in Egyptian tombs and Chinese imperial archives. The same symbols mark laboratories in Mayan temples and Mediterranean cave systems. The cover-up. So, why don't we know about this? Why has this coordinated effort to defeat death been erased from official history? The answer lies in what happened when these civilizations fell. In every case, Egypt, ancient China, classical Maya, the collapse coincided with the systematic destruction of life extension facilities. Laboratories were sealed, researchers were eliminated, and knowledge was either destroyed or hidden so well that we're only now beginning to rediscover it. But perhaps most disturbing of all is the evidence that some of these experiments succeeded. In remote corners of the world, there are people who claim to have lifespans that defy explanation. Tibetan monks who document ages exceeding 150 years. Chinese herbalists whose family records show lifespans of 200+ years spanning back centuries. Indigenous shamans whose age calculations, if accurate, place them at well over 120 years old. Modern gerontologists dismiss these claims as record-keeping errors or cultural mythology. But what if they're wrong? What if scattered groups of people still possess fragments of ancient immortality knowledge? The modern implications. Today, Silicon Valley billionaires spend millions on life extension research, convinced they're pioneering the defeat of aging. Anti-aging clinics offer treatments that promise to slow cellular decay. Researchers pursue telomere therapy, genetic manipulation, and cryogenic preservation. They believe they're innovating, but the evidence suggests they're actually rediscovering technologies that ancient civilizations perfected thousands of years ago. The immortality plot wasn't a failure. It was too successful. The knowledge was suppressed, not because it didn't work, but because it worked too well. A world where only the elite could afford immortality, where power could literally last forever, where death became a privilege denied to most but accessible to a few. Perhaps those ancient conspirators didn't disappear. Perhaps they simply learned to hide better. The next time you hear about a breakthrough in aging research, ask yourself, are we discovering something new, or are we finally catching up to knowledge that humanity possessed and lost long ago? The search for immortality never ended. It just went underground.